Hey everybody, welcome to the Sportsnet Fantasy Extra. I'm Andy McNamara. Get me on Twitter at AndyMC81. Use the hashtag AskAndy where I'll answer any and all of your fantasy football questions. And also make sure you check out every Sunday morning across the Sportsnet Radio Network, the Fantasy Show. That's where myself and Matt Marchese get real in deep on each and every game across the National Football League, sleepers, waiver wire pickups, and all that good stuff. Today though, we'll check back on some of the great and not so great performances from Sunday ahead to the Monday Nighter, Ravens taking on the Rams, as well as some early waiver wire pickups. But let's start with some of the injuries coming out of Sunday. Golden Tate of the Giants, after that touchdown grabs, looks like he suffered a concussion. He's been placed into concussion protocol, so you're going to want to amp up Sterling Shepard, and even more so, Darius Slayton. I've been bullish on him for 3 weeks now. So Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard's value goes way up, especially if Evan Ingram stays out. But track Golden Tate as they'll get ready to take on the Packers if he remains in concussion protocol. Another thing going into Week 13, the good news is the bye weeks are gone. They're done. We don't have to worry about bye weeks anymore. But we do have 3 Thanksgiving Thursday games. It's American Thanksgiving, so those are 3 games, 6 teams. So you're going to want to make sure you set your roster early, you track it, and you're going to have to do some projections, because if there are some players who are going to be on the field Sunday, you might have to make some early decisions and guess a little bit to see if they'll make it, and if you want to risk the wait or play somebody else in the Thursday night games. There's a few beauties too. You have Bears at Lions. That one, not so much, but this one I'm looking forward to. Bills taking on the Cowboys in Dallas. That's going to be a get-right game. Owner Jerry Jones called out the coaching staff, the players, and all that. It was a terrible weather game in that loss to New England, but I'm feeling this is going to be a get-right game, fantasy-wise and on the field-wise, for the Dallas Cowboys. Then you have Falcons hosting the Saints in what typically you'd think, just from the on-field pieces, would be a shootout and a great fantasy matchup. Typically when these two clubs face, including the last time, one or the other puts up a dud. So not to say you're not going to play your usual studs like Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, of course, but Julio Jones, but you might want to temper expectations there. Going forward, so I mentioned Golden Tate. Now, the Seattle Seahawks backfield. That's a storyline you want to track, because Chris Carson has provided strong, steady RB2 numbers all season long. Sometimes has popped into a low-end RB1 category, but those fumble issues keep happening, and Pete Carroll keeps giving him chance after chance. Well, he got the rug pulled out from him here, because he had back-to-back fumbles, lost the second one in that win over Philadelphia, and all of a sudden Rashad Penny was out touching him 14-8 on carries. Had a couple big plays, Penny did, and this is something we're going to want to keep an eye on, because if Pete Carroll, in this extremely important season for the Seahawks as true Super Bowl contenders, cannot trust Carson, and out of all these opportunities, it sounds and looks like you can't, Rashad Penny could be a great add. And when you look at what Penny is, he's only available in 19% of Yahoo leagues. That's all he's owned it. So you can go get Rashad Penny. Might be a nice stash. Starter worthy, let's pump the brakes on that. Maybe not yet, but in that running back landscape in fantasy world that can just be a black hole, Rashad Penny, if you can get him, put him on your bench and keep an eye. That's going to be a smart ad. Also, Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown. I've been telling you on the Fantasy Extra, on the Fantasy Minute delivered by Domino's, pieces every day, on Fan 590 social media, on the 2-minute drill, on the Fantasy Show. Get Ryan Tannehill. I know it goes against all conventional wisdom. You don't think Ryan Tannehill's a good fantasy quarterback. He is. Since taking over from Marcus Mariota, he is. And him and A.J. Brown teamed up and were lights out. Take a look at this. I'm going to pull up the top fantasy performers for Week 12. This is before the Monday Nighter. Yeah, Chris Godwin, number 1, 37.4. This is in PPR formats. Fantasy points on a tear in that win over Atlanta. So he had 2 touchdown catches, 7 receptions overall, 180 plus. Just an absolute stud. But when you go down the list, number 5, okay? Ryan Tannehill. I'll get to the others in a moment, but Ryan Tannehill, number 5, put up 32.36 fantasy points. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for 2 touchdowns. And it's not just a one-off. So when you look at what Ryan Tannehill has done since Week 7, since he really took over, okay, he's had in every single game at least 19 fantasy points. 18.94 and 1, but at least 19 fantasy points. 32.36 in this game. Before the bye, 18.9 was 25 plus 20 and 20 over that. So Ryan Tannehill as a legit fantasy quarterback who is owned still in just 26% of Yahoo leagues is viable. If you're nervous on matchups, if you have injuries, if you're a Carson Wentz owner and you're not digging that, which I'm not, you can pop in Ryan Tannehill. How about coupling him too with some A.J. Brown? The rookie, he's had some rookie pop peaks and valleys, but he went for over 100 yards, had a touchdown, and that is the Tennessee receiver to own, not Corey Davis. The other top fantasy performers so far before the Monday night are Leonard Fournette in at number 2, 36.9 fantasy points. Nick Foles, not great, not doing anything special through the air as Jacksonville lost that game to Tennessee, critical divisional game. But Leonard Fournette had 30 overall touches, including 9 catches. He rushed for 2 touchdowns, but he had 9 catches, which is different. I think Nick Foles is still working his way back into the groove after that lengthy absence with the clavicle injury. Leonard Fournette's season, after a couple weeks where he was starting to dip a little bit into the low double digits, he's back. After him, Jarvis Landry. You know I'm loving that as a Browns fan here, but Jarvis Landry against his former team, revenge game for Landry. 2 touchdowns. The thing to remember though, in the 3 previous games, he had a touchdown in each of those. So Landry is coming alive, and he's becoming more than just a PPR guy. He is viable in standard leagues. That's the first time he's been that in his whole career. He's Baker's go-to. OBJ, nice little comeback as well. It was against the Dolphins, and the Pittsburgh defense is stout. We know that in that rematch that's coming up on Sunday. But when you look at what Jarvis Landry was able to do, even before this 2 touchdown game, he had the 1 TD and had 14.3 fantasy points. He had 24 plus, 17, and double digits again all the way back to week 8. So since the bye, Jarvis Landry has been solid. Now, he's widely owned, but as somebody who might be in some DFS contests overlooked a little bit because of the Browns' struggles before their winning streak, they're being overlooked still because of the teams that they've beaten. Jarvis Landry's been great. Christian McCaffrey, we know how great he is, 34.3 fantasy points. Christian McCaffrey's a stud. And then Ryan Tannehill, as I said, after that to bring up the top 5 fantasy performers of the week so far as you get ready for Monday Night Football. And for the Monday Nighter here, Lamar Jackson, so it's Ravens at Rams. Lamar Jackson is the only true reliable fantasy source for the Ravens. You know he's going to produce in some way, shape, or form with his legs, arm, whatever. But that's it. Mark Andrews, tight end 1 potential. He's flashed it, he's shown it. But a roller coaster. Sometimes it's single digits, sometimes it's double. Ingram in the backfield. Gus Edwards vultured some carries before. Not to say you're not going to play in Ingram. Not to say you're not going to play in Andrews. I wouldn't touch the wide receivers, but just be careful on that. Lamar Jackson. Now, for the Rams, it's very interesting for this Monday Nighter because you have Cooper Kupp, who's been in there the whole time with Jared Goff and has really suffered with the absence of Robert Woods out for personal issues and Brandon Cooks. Both guys are supposed to be back. So even though the offense hasn't looked like how it has in the past, Kupp could be a real beneficiary as the Ravens defense has to pay attention to Cooks and to Woods. So light up Cooper Kupp. Todd Gurley too. The days of his 30-point fantasy days, folks, it's over. It's done, okay? He's not. That's not who he is right now until he shows that he can do that again or is allowed to with volume. Not going to happen, but he is still a solid RB2 right in those low to mid-teen level fantasy points. You're going to obviously play him, but you're not going to be looking at him to someone to take over your week. Couple of early waiver wire additions here. Go to the defenses this week, okay, guys? Go to the defenses. The Eagles and the Jets. Okay, it's all about matchups here. So when you look at these matchups, Jets are playing the Bengals. Do I need to say anything more? The Bengals are 0-11. Then you go to the Eagles at the Dolphins. The Browns just lit them up for 40 plus. Those are 2 really nice ads right there. Again, Tannehill and A.J. Brown that I mentioned earlier. You can go right out there and get that. Make sure you check out my Under the Wire article. It's going to be on sportsnet.ca on Tuesday of many more waiver wire options for you there. Enjoy the games tonight and make sure you hit me up on Twitter at AndyMC81 using hashtag AskAndy for any of your fantasy football questions.